It hits at exactly 3:14 a.m. I know the time because the glowing red numbers on the alarm clock are the first thing I see when my eyes snap open. There is no warning, no slow fading out of a dream, just a violent electric jolt that rips me out of the darkness and leaves me sitting bolt upright in the bed, gasping, clawing at the empty air like a drowning man breaking the surface of a frozen lake. My heart isn't just beating, it is hammering against my ribs with a frantic, irregular rhythm, like a trapped animal trying to break free from my chest. I am drenched in a freezing, suffocating sweat. The sheets cling to me like wet concrete. For those first few agonizing, breathless seconds, I'm absolutely convinced that this is it. This is the end. I sit there on the edge of the mattress, wrapped in the heavy, silent dark of the bedroom, my chest heaving, terrified to close my eyes. I press 2 fingers against my neck, feeling the pulse race, terrified that if I drift back off, my heart will simply give out. The psychological torment of those early morning hours is indescribable to anyone who hasn't lived it. You lie there in the blackness, staring at the ceiling fan, listening to the house settle, waiting for a stroke. You negotiate with God. You wonder if you need to wake your wife up and tell her to call an ambulance. But you don't. You suffer in silence because you feel foolish. And then the sun finally comes up and the real punishment begins. You drag yourself out of bed like a walking ghost. The exhaustion is so deep, so absolute, it feels like it has settled into my bone marrow. I spent years wandering through my days in a total haze, my brain starved of rest, my body trembling with a fatigue that no amount of coffee could cure. My hands and feet were perpetually ice cold. My memory started slipping. I would stare at my computer screen at work, unable to string a coherent sentence together, the thick brain fog acting like a barrier between me and the rest of the world. But the physical exhaustion wasn't the only thing dying. My pride, my dignity, and my marriage were decaying right alongside my body. When you spend every night fighting for your life, there is no room for intimacy. The morning salute, the biological proof of male vitality that I had taken for granted my entire life, was completely gone. Dead. Silent. I felt like a gelding. I saw the look of quiet rejection in my wife's eyes. She thought I was losing interest in her. The truth was, I wanted her, but I was living in a broken machine. I was a man slowly turning into a shadow in his own home. I finally broke down and went to the medical establishment looking for a lifeline. I sat in brightly lit clinics, stripped of my dignity, wearing a paper gown, and tried to explain that I felt like I was suffocating in my sleep. Instead of answers, I got condescension. The first doctor looked at my chart, looked at my grey hair, and told me it was just anxiety. He said I was working too hard. The second doctor sent me to a sleep clinic. I spent a humiliating night with wires glued to my scalp and chest, only to be told I had mild age-related sleep apnea. Their solutions were horrifying. They handed me prescriptions for heavy, dangerous chemical sedatives, essentially telling me to just knock my brain into a coma so I wouldn't feel the panic. Or they suggested I sleep strapped to a loud, uncomfortable CPAP machine, wearing a mask, like a fighter pilot, just to survive the night in my own bed. But I knew in my gut they were dead wrong. I could feel it, forcing my brain into a chemical blackout, or slapping a mask over my face to treat a symptom while my heart was clearly screaming for help was pure madness. It was a recipe for a massive cardiovascular disaster. I was treating a blazing fire alarm by simply pulling out the batteries and pretending the house wasn't burning down. I hit absolute rock bottom on a Tuesday night. I had moved to the guest bedroom because my tossing and turning was keeping my wife awake. I was sitting on the edge of the guest bed at 3:30 a.m., exhausted, terrified, looking at a bottle of sleeping pills in my hand. In that deep despair, a profound realization washed over me. I had to stop masking the symptoms. I had to heal the mechanical root cause of my failing cardiovascular system on my own, or I was going to die a quiet, exhausted death. If you are exhausted by dangerous temporary fixes and want to understand the real mechanics of saving your own body, I've left a guide in the first link of the description for anyone interested in learning and discovering how mature men are supporting healthy blood flow and vitality naturally without relying on artificial solutions. That decision to look for a real mechanical fix, to reject the chemical straitjacket of modern medicine, led me to an unconventional vascular expert named Dr. Patrick Miller. Walking into his office changed the entire trajectory of my life. Dr. Miller wasn't interested in sleep studies or sedatives. He didn't even reach for his prescription pad. Instead, he pulled up a detailed diagram of the human cardiovascular system, sat me down, and explained the raw, terrifying mechanics of what was actually happening to me in the dark. He called it nocturnal hypoxia. He told me that the 3 a.m. panic isn't anxiety at all. It is a biological alarm, a desperate survival mechanism. When we sleep, our heart rate naturally drops. That is how the body rests and repairs itself. But if your arteries are stiff, inflamed, and choked with years of calcified plaque, the internal rust of the body, that natural drop in pressure becomes lethal. It means the weakened pump of the resting heart can no longer push oxygen-rich blood through those narrowed, rigid pipes. As you sleep, Dr. Miller said, looking me dead in the eye, your brain is literally beginning to suffocate. To save your body from dying, the brain triggers a massive emergency adrenaline dump. It shocks the nervous system, forcing the heart into a racing, frantic panic just to violently push blood through those clogged pipes to keep the brain alive. That was why I was waking up gasping for my life. That was the freezing sweat. It wasn't a nightmare. It was my body fighting off a silent heart attack every single night. But Dr. Miller didn't stop at the terrifying diagnosis. He prescribed a natural biological fix, a literal pipe cleaner for my vascular system. He broke down the exact science of the endothelium, the inner lining of our blood vessels, and how it acts as a manufacturing plant for a miracle molecule called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the gas that tells the blood vessels to relax, widen, and expand. He explained why the cheap generic supplements at the pharmacy fail. Standard L-arginine pills are destroyed by stomach acid and the liver before they ever reach the bloodstream. Instead, Dr. Miller introduced me to specific, highly bioavailable natural nitric oxide precursors meant to be taken right before bed. By taking this precise nutrient stack before sleep, the compounds completely bypass the liver's destructive enzymes. They trigger a massive, sustained and potent release of pure nitric oxide directly into the bloodstream while sleeping. With the system flooded with nitric oxide, the stiff blood vessels actively relax and widen. The pipes open up. With my vessels flexible again, my resting heart could effortlessly pump a heavy, oxygen-rich flow of blood straight to my brain, my organs, and my extremities all night long. The brain breathes, the heart calms, and over time, this continuous, heavy, pressurized flow actually works as a biological solvent, slowly dissolving and scrubbing away that calcified plaque. I started the protocol that very night. I threw the sleeping pills in the trash. The transformation didn't happen overnight. True biological healing never does. But the shift was profound and undeniable. During the first week, the crushing brain fog began to lift. By the second week, I noticed a comforting, radiant heat returning to my hands and feet. The circulation was waking up from its coma. But the real miracle happened in the third week. The 3 a.m. terror began to fade. I stopped waking up in a cold sweat. I started sleeping straight through the dreaded witching hour, experiencing deep, restorative REM sleep for the first time in years.
The results are unremarkable.
And then came the morning I will never ever
It's
forget.
just anxiety. You're fine.
I opened my eyes, naturally, at 7 a.m. Sunlight was pouring into the room. I felt a surging, undeniable electricity coursing through my veins. I hadn't felt this kind of raw energy in decades. My heart was calm, beating with a steady, quiet, powerful rhythm. And there, as the absolute, undeniable proof of a healed, fully functional vascular system, was the rigid, pressurized morning salute of my youth. It was a physiological miracle. That was the moment I knew my internal plumbing was completely clear. The rust was gone. The heavy fear of nighttime had completely vanished. I turned to my wife in the morning light, and for the first time in years, I reached for her with absolute confidence. The look of surprise and genuine desire in her eyes was something I will cherish for the rest of my life. My engine is running smoothly again. The profound peace of reclaiming my biological control, of getting my identity back, is something I cannot put into words. Gentlemen, we cannot keep ignoring these 3 a.m. warning signs. We cannot allow ourselves to be convinced that suffocating in our own beds is just part of aging. We cannot let the medical establishment drug us into silence with sedatives while our arteries literally turn to stone. We have to address the mechanics. We have to fix the internal plumbing using real, proven science. You have the right to fix the root cause and sleep peacefully again. For those ready to skip the trial and error, I've included a guide in the first link of the description on how mature men are supporting healthy blood flow and vitality naturally without relying on artificial solutions. You do not have to be a victim of your biology. Refuse to surrender to the fear of the dark. Do not accept the cold hands, the chronic exhaustion, or the silence in your marriage. Take back your vascular control, scrub the rust from your engine, rebuild your body from the inside out, and demand the absolute vitality you deserve. Sleep well, gentlemen. We are done living in fear.